Welcome to our Arni's birthday Zoom. And these things are always a privilege for me because I get to share somebody's big day with them. And Tim Newton is his big day. It's every day's a big day when you're 63. And I had a 64th here a few days ago, so it's all good.
Well, and happy birthday to you.
Yes, thank you. I got your wonderful wishes from your women's game at Dayton and a win for the Boilermakers. But Tim needs no introduction, and I'm privileged to spend at least 6 or 7 Saturdays sitting next to watching him work his magic with Purdue football, and I listen to him often on Purdue women's basketball. But happy birthday, my friend, and all days are good, and this is a good day.
Well, it won't surprise you, Alan. The first person I heard from this morning was Pete Quinn.
Yes,
he's super excited that I've turned his number now. So yes, yeah. It will be the year of Quinn. But every year is the year of Quinn.
Every year is the year of Quinn, no question. All right, so I always ask the question about birthday traditions. You grew up in the Buffalo, New York area, which is God's country, at least even in the Karpik family. What were the traditions in your family? I mean, you were probably something around sports, I'm guessing, but I don't know. Tell me what's going on.
This is going to sound like a bitter childhood memory, Alan, but my memories of birthdays in years past were birthday parties canceled by blizzards.
There you
because it happened at least 2 or 3 times growing up where you had all your friends ready to come over, and all of a sudden we would get one of those lake effect snowstorms, and one by one everybody would have to cancel. And so that's kind of sad, but that's the first thing I think of when I think way back in my childhood. My 21st birthday I spent at I don't know what it's called now. It was the Rosemont Horizon at the time. Purdue played DePaul. This would have been back in 1981, and I was about ready to graduate. I was a couple of weeks before I graduated. And Purdue, and you remember DePaul had Mark Aguirre, and they had a great team back then, and they beat Purdue. It was Gene Katie's second season, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, second season. And but I had my first legal beer that night. And I'm going to emphasize underscore the word legal.
DePaul basketball, and that was Teddy Grubbs and Terry Cummings was on that team, and it was a thing back in the days with and that was kind of getting closer to the tail end of that. But that was
and the other reason I was up in Chicago, our friends, the group of friends I was in, had a habit of kidnapping, I guess we'll use that word lightly, people on their 21st birthday and throwing them into the Wabash River. And first of all, I'm not a good swimmer. Second of all, it is December, and I had no intention of being thrown in the Wabash River. So I thought, if I'm in Chicago, they can't get me. And they didn't get me.
There was a group in I think in fraternity life that tried to do that stuff, and that's dangerous as hell. And I have lived next to the Wabash River for most of my life, and I don't ever want to swim in July. I don't want to swim.
No.
Nothing against the Wabash, but just don't want to do it. So that was a good strategic move.
Yes, it's great in song, not so great if you're in it.
That is right. That is correct. The Wabash River makes me shiver, or whatever, however that goes. All right. So your day jobs, just finished the football season. An interesting one, and maybe not going exactly. It never does, for one thing. I mean, even no matter what, even if you go 12-0, it doesn't go how you plan.
Ask Florida State.
What? Yeah,
ask Florida State. Which, I mean, we could spend a whole thing. I think that is an absolute travesty that Florida State's not in the college football playoff. I thought this whole thing was based on what you did in the regular season. Clearly, that's not the case.
Well, it's so interesting. It's all about the quarterback being injured.
Well, the last time I looked, though, defense is part of football, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think their defense is pretty good. I think Jeff would tell you their defense is pretty good.
They held down the Fighting Jeff Brahms and then some. And
apparently it is somewhere in the college football playoff Bible that thou shalt have an SEC team.
Yeah,
college football playoff. So, but again, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, no question.
The season, the season for Purdue was it was up and down. I think that the fact that we're not playing in December was really decided back in September, because you had those early games, especially Fresno State and Syracuse. Those are games that if you're going to play in postseason play this year, you had to win those 2 games, or you had to steal some. And I thought they had a chance to steal and win at Nebraska and didn't. They had a chance to steal and win at Iowa and didn't. But I thought the defense got better as the season went on. I think they got accustomed to the scheme that Ryan Walters wants to run. I think you had 3 guys back there, all of whom were deserving of probably more all Big Ten recognition than they got in Nick Scort and Cadrian Jenkins and Dylan Thieneman. But I think now that the question is, first of all, bringing those guys back, which it's looking more and more like that's going to happen. Now, can you surround them with other players like them? And then on the offensive side, it seemed like they got an identity late in the year, at least that they were able to run the football a little bit. Can that continue? Is Hudson Card going to be healthy going into 2024? And more importantly, who's he going to throw the football to? Because right now that receiver room is pretty empty.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And I think even from and you're so good at what you do, it took me, I'm not sure I could still, if I had to be pressed with bamboo shoots under my fingernails, that I could name the entire Purdue starting lineup, because of the nature of this, world we're living in, where, and Purdue is certainly going to have, I don't know, 15, 18 new players, of which many of them will be in the 2 deeps, one would think, next year. So you have no idea exactly what you're looking for. But just talk about that, not just the transfer portal. Obviously, Purdue is not the only school that's had a lot of folks. I mean, I'm still shaking my head over Ohio State's quarterback situation and Kyle McCord on down the line. But what do you see that? I mean, from a foundational standpoint, you got a chance to be with Ryan Walters during the coaches shows, et cetera. But what are we seeing from that in terms of the ability to attract guys to come here? Because that's what it's going to be. It's going to have to be.
Well, you established, I think we established early on that I am old. So this is going to be the old man rant.
Yeah.
I think over the years, college football, if you look at the rules changes every year, they've tried to emulate the NFL. So if the NFL puts a rule change in, usually college football won't be far behind. Unfortunately, and in my opinion, we've also now hit the era of free agency, where every year, every player on your roster is up for grabs. And NIL is certainly going to be a big pull of that. Playing time is going to be a big pull of that. I think Ryan Walters is a very charismatic guy. I think players are attracted to him. I think that he's relatable. I think his coaching staff is relatable. The key, though, you're going to have to plug every year. You're going to have to plug holes in the portal, because this revolving door is not going to stop. And somebody asked last night if they could go back, and I thought they were going to rescind or change the portal rule. I think that has no chance of happening. I think the genie's out of the bottle, and what's done is done. But you're still going to have to build a base. And this is why, and I know we'll get into basketball in a minute, why I have so much respect for Matt Painter and what he's done, is you've got to be able to keep your core, recruit to what you think you can do well, get the best guys who can do that, and then keep them. And that seems like such a simple task. And yet very few programs in football, basketball, or any other sports seemingly are able to do that anymore. So I think in football, I think they have an idea of what they want from an identity from offense and defense. And I think, again, the offense is still a little bit of work in progress, but I think we saw defensively, I think that unit did get better as the year went on. But can you keep the guys year after year that you have to keep? Can you build still that base? Because I still think high school recruiting has to be the lifeblood of your program. But can you keep those guys, I don't know if entertained is the right word, but can you keep them engaged in your program so where they're going to be 3rd and 4th and 5th year players? And that's becoming a rarer and rarer thing. And I think the coaches that are able to do that are going to have the most success. I think, just as I think NIL is unsustainable in the long term for the majority of schools, including Purdue. And I think they'll have to change the way, not that, again, NIL is not going back in the bottle either, but I think the way that's funded is going to have to change. This is not going to, what we have now in this era of free agency is going to continue. So you either have to adapt or you have to die. And so the general manager position that's so important now in the NFL, you better have a really good general manager and player roster, basically a roster manager on your team, that you're scouring the portal. You're still going to have to hit the high schools hard. You're still going to have to continue to recruit your own players, and that includes with NIL. And the coaches that can do that the best are the ones that are going to survive, and those that don't, you can't live by bringing 25 new guys in the portal every year. I just think that's an unsustainable model.
Yeah, very difficult to, again, when you're trying to build a culture like Ryan Walters is, and having to all that fluctuation in personnel. And football's such a different game than basketball. We understand that too. It is the definition of herding cats, I think, at the end of the day.
Well,
One of the things
we talked really quickly.
Yeah.
We talked, you got 3 guys on that defensive unit that you can really build around. If you have 3 guys in basketball like that,
you win national
you're an
championship.
upper division Big Ten team. With football, you have to have so much more depth. And we saw what happened last year this year with the offensive line, where you get a rash of injuries at one position where you just don't have the depth. I thought the offensive line was as good at the end of the season as you could have expected given the circumstance.
Yeah, when you have an NAIA golfer playing on your offensive line, nothing against Ben Farrell, and of course he had some injuries down the stretch as well, right? But
right,
amazing, just amazing that they did, as I thought. Maybe amazing is too strong a word, but they did very, very well considering. And we know too, and you've been watching it as long as I have, that offensive lines have always been challenges at Purdue. Not always, but when the team's been a Rose Bowl quality team back to the 2000, they had a great offensive line. And still they weren't they were all I think played in the NFL, but only a couple of them played any great. Matt Light and played a great deal of time in the league. So it's a tough thing. One thing, your day job is in the Daniel School of Business and have been involved with that. But what do you look at I think Matt Painter's talked about this, and I think athletics has talked about this, maybe also the notion of, make this a place that they don't want to leave. Is that possible? I think with some kids it may be, but is that temptation too great? Or do we not, it's maybe too early to tell, but Purdue is a great place. It's got a lot of things to offer. Our kids have been around this university as well. How do you manage that, or is that a good strategy in this world of free agency, do you think?
Well, first you have to have the at least the requisite amount of bells and whistles. And I think if you look at what football's done in the Performance Center, there's a reason those guys can stay there basically, except when they have to be in class, and a lot of their classes are online, so they don't even have to leave the complex for that. And so you've got the bells and whistles there. I think the stadium renovations have been a big addition. The Tiller Tunnel's been a big hit. Basketball, they just got new locker rooms. So you do have to have a certain amount of keeping up with the Joneses. And not that, at Purdue, I think we've always tried to get guys that are not that much into the material world.
Yeah.
It's funny because you're talking about working in the business school here, and I'm sitting in Young Hall, by the way. This is somebody's former dorm room. I work right down the hall here. When we have word clouds, and we've done this with prospective students about what do you like about Purdue, what do you not like about Purdue, location comes on both sides, and it's usually a big word on both sides. Some people like the fact that we're kind of isolated out here, somewhat I wouldn't say in the middle of the cornfields, but we are kind of in the middle of the cornfields, right? Yeah. It's not Chicago. It's not Indianapolis. It's not New York City. So there's a certain group of people that are going to be drawn to that. Now there's a certain group of people that like the nightlife. And you can always find, as many people watching this who are Purdue graduates know, you can find trouble anywhere, including Indiana at 2:00 in the morning. That's not a problem. But your options are a little bit more limited than they are in some other places. So you've got to find a fit. And I think you hear coaches talk about that all the time. You heard Joe Tiller talk about it, and Gene Cady and Matt Painter and Katie Geralds and everybody. You've got to find somebody that fits Purdue and that Purdue fits. In my case, Purdue was definitely a fit for me. I came here as a high school senior 40 some years ago, and basically I haven't left. But it feels like home, and it fits me, and I think I fit Purdue. And you need to find student athletes that are the same. And I think you've got to have enough of the bells and whistles that will keep you competitive. But if that's what you're going to go after at Purdue, we're not going to win that race, because you just don't have the resources that an Ohio State or a Michigan or now these new schools, USC, UCLA. You're not going to, if you're going to try to match them dollar for dollar and bell for bell and whistle for whistle, you're going to lose. So what do you have to do? You have to find a niche. You have to find the right kind of player. And as we've seen, you can still get some pretty good football players and some pretty good basketball players and some pretty good athletes here. Look at what Dave Shondell is doing with the volleyball program, sustained success year after year. But I do think there has to be a fit. And I know when we hire here at the business school, and somebody asked me what I'm looking for somebody that fits our culture. You assume that everybody you bring in for an interview has the skills to do what you need to do. Who's going to fit? Who's going to work the best? Who's going to elevate the group the most? And I think that's what all the coaches are looking for as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. All right. One of the things, and then we got a couple more questions because you have a job to do today and other things on your it's not, you're not there. We're not having a parade for Tim Newton. We would do it if we could, but it's a little gray and grainy here in West Lafayette today. So
it's kind of
on hold. It's on hold. It's on hold for a year or two. But all right, one of the challenges, and going back to football real quick, is that schedule and the fact that you're bringing 4 teams into this league that, in all honesty, at least 3 of the 4 and probably 4 of the 4 are higher up the ladder than Purdue has historically been. Oregon didn't get to be where it is till really 29 years ago. 1994 is where they really, and Phil Knight had a lot to do with that, and they elevated to where the Ducks are, but certainly Washington. I think the stat is, and I don't know if it's right, that Purdue's only won 16% or 18% of its games against those 4 teams historically. Mm-hmm. So my question is, boy, you look at your schedule next year. You got Notre Dame the next 4 years, correct? Yep. You got Oregon, you've got Ohio State, you have Penn State.
Yep.
My point is it going to be, and Ryan Walters isn't going to admit defeat to these folks. I get it, but still that ceiling of getting 6-7 wins is really going to be challenging. I mean, for this program, just because of who they're going to face year in and year out.
I think it also puts a spotlight on your non-conference schedule, because the conference schedule is one you can't control. The Big Ten has told you who you're going to play for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think there was a philosophy that they tried to upgrade the non-conference schedule. Purdue went in one direction. Schools like Indiana have gone in another direction, where they try to, bring in Hostess, Dolly Madison, and all the cupcakes that they can.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, still has not been successful.
Yeah.
But I think you are going to have to make a decision going down the road here as who can we schedule that fans will want to see, but also that we have a chance of getting to at least to that 500 mark. And I know, if Ryan Walters looks at this, he's going to say, well, we're not satisfied at being a 500 team. We want to,
right.
And so really, what's the goal here? The goal is to get yourself to where you're in the Iowa, Wisconsin level, where every year you're able to say, okay, we're going to win 7 or 8 games every year, no matter what. I don't care who we're playing. We're going to have enough talent. We're going to have a consistent system. We're going to have things that we can recruit to. We're going to build a tradition. That, as you know, that has happened in pockets at Purdue. You go back to when I was in school, you had Jim Young's era, you had the Joe Tiller era, you had Jeff Brom with some success. Back before I was here, Jack Mullenkoff had success, but you don't have that 25 years straight with a bowl game. So you're going to have to really elevate your program from here, not even to here, but now with those 4 teams coming in, as you mentioned. Now you've got to be up here just to be competitive year after year. So it's going to put pressure on to upgrade recruiting, to maintain your roster. And again, I think they've got to take a look at the scheduling. What is our philosophy going forward? Do we want to play the toughest schedule we can play, or do we want to win as many games as we can win? And hopefully you get your roster to the point where it doesn't matter who you schedule. But I think it's fair to say that Purdue is not currently at that level. So I think there are some decisions in some of these contracts. You're locked in to go to Oregon State this year.
Yeah,
you've got a home and home coming up with Mississippi. You've got a home and home coming up with Wake Forest. You still owe Vanderbilt a game. So they've got some Power 5 non-conference games locked in, unless they decide to try to buy their way out as Indiana did with Louisville. But I think that's a difficult decision, because on one hand it sends a message that we don't feel we're competitive, but on the other hand, how realistic is it for you with the schedule that you have to have a winning football team year after year after year? So I think, especially until you build the program to that point where you're in that consistently winning level, I think you've got to be a little bit careful with who you go out and schedule.
Yeah, that trip to Corvallis will be interesting for the radio crew. I don't know if have you been to Corvallis for women's
I've
basketball?
driven through I've never done a game there, but I've driven through Corvallis before. Lovely town.
Yeah, so you're going to get a chance to experience that, and that'll be fun. But it won't be an easy game, even with the coaching change there.
No.
The Beavers are a formidable bunch. They were this year, and will be all Purdue.
They may be the co-favorite of the Pac-2 next year.
Yeah, yes, and they may get their automatic bid. They may be in the playoff. Who knows how this is all going to work out? All right. One other thing, and you're the lit person, one of the people that's least about accolades or I don't know about milestones, but 1,000 games in women's basketball will be coming up real soon.
Yeah.
I think that's an unbelievable achievement, and credit to your old age, your longevity, and all the things that you've done. But this has been an interesting ride. You've had, it's been fun this year, even for me, and I'm very much on the periphery, extremely far in the periphery, but to celebrate the 25-year anniversary of what is a great group of people, first and foremost. That's the thing we all think about. It's that this 1999 Purdue women's basketball team was terrific talent, but they also are fun, interesting, talented people that have, for the most part, I can't think of any examples of folks that haven't lived really good lives. All right, so what does that mean to you, though, that 1,000th game, and now you've got a I will call her an upstart coach, but she's in her third year and doing some good things, but there's still a lot of challenges ahead for Katie Gerald's and company. But to put that in perspective, in terms of all the games you've done and what you've seen from a program that for the most part has been pretty successful during your tenure.
Let me go back first. The 25-year anniversary was a blast, and you hit it right on the nose. I was able to give a toast to that group at they gathered, and I actually choked
and they'll toast, by the way.
Yeah,
they're a toasting bunch.
It was emotional for me to look out on all those people and know what we had gone through together. You go through the exhilaration. First of all, that roller coaster season where your coach is going to leave. They're going to get rid of her. Then Yukari Figs and Stephanie White say, well, you get rid of her, we're not staying. Yeah. So they decide to keep Carolyn. We have the unbelievable season. You win the national championship, you celebrate at Mackey Arena, and then 4 months later, we're on a bus to Alabama to bury one of the players on that team.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about from the highest high to the absolute lowest low. So, and that group includes, you got an engineer and a lawyer and a teacher and all sorts of people who are doing great things. So yes, that's always going to be my favorite team in any sport at Purdue, regardless of what happens from here on in. But in terms of the 1,000 games, it's been fun. It's been a blast. I've had a great relationship. I think I've been fortunate with all of the coaches that I've worked with. Katie Gerald's, I think, was the right person at the right time. I think she's brought some energy into the program. She is very, as Ryan Walters is, and I think with justification, she's very self-confident. I think that radiates to her players. I think that radiates during recruiting. And you can see the talent level year after year now is starting to build. I think this freshman class is going to be an outstanding contributing group. Mary Ashley Stevenson, Rashonda Jones, I think Sophie Swanson is going to be a player. Emily Monson, McKenna Layden. I mean, this group is really going to contribute to the program. And again, how do they get back to the Final Four? You get back to the Final Four with Final Four talent. So you're just going to have to keep elevating that program year after year. But it's been fun for me to share this with the fans. Yeah. I think the biggest compliment you can get in our profession is if somebody comes to you up at Mackey and says, hey, I listened to the game the other night. I felt like I was watching it. Yeah. Thanks. And that's the ultimate thing. John DeCamp told me one time 5 words that really changed the way I looked at things. And that was tell them what you see.
Yeah.
And if you can tell them what you see and they can sit in your seat and see the game the way you see it, that's all you can do. I did have to learn, and I did this. It took me years and years to do this, not to take the losses as hard as I used to, because you realize in both football, basketball, and any other sport, I have absolutely no control over whether Purdue wins or loses. I want Purdue to win very badly because I want, first of all, it's my alma mater. Second, I've really developed a relationship with the players and coaches, but you have no control. All you can do is describe the game the best you can so that people, and be honest with people.
Yeah, that's a key.
Not every call against Purdue is a bad call, but when you do complain about a call or say something, that you've got that credibility built up, that people will trust what you say. And if you live and die with every loss, like we lost with the men's game on the other night to Northwestern. If you live and die with every loss, you're going to die a lot of deaths. So you have to look at everything over the long haul. And it's, again, I go back to fit. Purdue's been a great fit for me, and being able to do women's basketball and football. I don't know if there are many other people in the country that are doing that combination, because a lot of the guys will do football and men's basketball. Of course, Cliz was around forever. And then when Cliz passed, Rob Blackman just took the mantle there, and he does a great job with that. So I've found my spot, and good Lord willing, I won't go to another 1,000, because I'd be 97 years old at that point. But good Lord willing, we'll try for at least a few hundred more.
Yeah, I think it's the Don Henley song. Take what, love what you have, to take what you're given with grace, and you've done that. And you do about as good a job as anybody in creating word pictures. I love. I don't attend all the women's basketball games. Don't attend very many of them, but I do get a chance to listen to them, and I know immediately what's going. And I think you have the right amount of being a little. If you don't like what you see, I know in football, and you're pretty positive, but when you can't get enough guys on the field, or they do something that they just shouldn't do, you say so. And,
well, I've been here for 45 years, but I still have a little bit of that East Coast stuff left in me. So,
well, what are they going to do? At this point, you're not going out of your way to be nasty. You're just calling it like you see it. If you got too many men on the field, that shouldn't happen.
It goes back to honesty. I want people who tune into our broadcast to understand that I'm not going to, there's not going to be any BS. I mean, it was hard. Honestly, you go back to the mid 2010s.
Yeah.
Football was pretty hard.
Yes.
And you couldn't sugarcoat that. It was difficult. Now, every week I will pat myself on the back, really pat our crew. I thought we came ready to broadcast every week, even though you came to the stadium knowing that you probably were not going to win. You treat every game like it's the Rose Bowl. You prepare like it's the Rose Bowl, and you do your best. And that's, I don't think our performance slid during that time period. And I think I'm actually proud of that, of what we were able to do as a group with the broadcast that we've had.
And that was not for you guys to keep it going when you're down 56-0 to Ohio State on tough, but and call it like you see it. And I think that's a wonderful attribute that you have. Well, may you have 1,000 more. You don't know what's going to happen.
If I'm alive for 1,000 more, it's going to be
amazing. That would be the first goal. That would be the first goal. But I'm privileged to call you friend, and certainly all the things that you do for our group at Gold and Black. We're grateful for that. Arni's Pizza too. This is an Arni's birthday Zoom. We share that as well. Any of the great restaurants in this town.
Let me give you one really quick story. So Arni's, of course, the tagline is "Meet you at Arni's," right?
Yes.
Years ago, this was probably 20 years ago or so, when Joe McConnell was still doing football games. They had to have him tape some commercials for Arni's before a game. Everything was set up. So he said, "Hey, here's the script. Can you read this?" Joe was an ultimate professional. He was one of the greatest guys I've ever run around.
Yeah. Oh, no.
He would get to the last line and he would ad lib it. And he didn't do it on purpose. And I don't think he realized that "Meet you at Arni's" so it was a "See you at Arni's." But we have to do that again, and we have to do that. Okay. All right. Be there at Arni's. And I think it took us 5 or 10 takes before we finally got him. "Meet you at Arni's." We got it in the 30 seconds, and we were able to go on and do the game.
The great Joe McConnell. Those were great days with him as well. So, and I was privileged to be part of that too. He was one of a kind, certainly.
Yes,
so,
yes,
all right, my friend, have a great rest of your day. Happy birthday to you. I know this is the highlight of your media career, so we know we're safe in that, and we'll enjoy not only your 1,000th game, but many, many more games to come. And as we look ahead, we never want to wish time away, so we're going to look forward to basketball and all that is going to happen with Katie Gerald's team, and of course Matt Painter's team as well, and Dave Shondell. I mean, you brought that up. That's going to be very interesting this weekend as they go on and take on the Oregon Ducks. I'm trying not to be a homer here, but just like with Matt Painter, it's hard not to want to see Dave Shondell get to the Final Four.
Yes,
just
absolutely.
like, hard not to root for him. It's hard not to root for Matt Painter, and certainly Katie Gerald's. If she continues on this trajectory, there'll be a day for her as well. So have a great rest of your day. Thanks to Arni's, and we will look forward to doing this again. I don't know who will be our next victim on the Arni's birthday Zoom, but we'll find somebody before long. So thanks again, Tim. Have a great rest of your day.
Boiler up.